Okay, and then maybe one more little spin. Now back it out by spinning it the opposite direction.
Okay.
Yep, and then slowly pull it out. Wow. And it kind of gets caught in there, so you kind of just give it a little tug. See? Look at Vinny, it's really running. So we do it the old-fashioned way with a crank, a hand crank, and we tap the spiles and we haul the buckets. We give it away to our friends and our family, and it's just like tastes that much sweeter.
There's so much more behind tradition than just, maintaining the practice for the point of celebration. Like sometimes you maintain that practice for moving yourself through like tough seasons and kind of like honoring those different seasons in your life. Welcome to Afternoon Tea at Pantry Hill. Join us over a cup or two as we work together to create home.
Step by step, down the path we made.
One of the things my husband, Eric, and I always wanted to learn is how to make maple syrup from the trees on our property. He makes the best pancakes. As with many of the things at Pantry Hill, we're learning as we go, meaning sometimes mistakes happen. For us, creating home means maintaining tradition and facilitating new ones with the help of our community. We're gathering knowledge the old-fashioned way from our friends and family and applying it to our lives. One tradition we adopted this winter is the tapping of maple trees. My friend Emmy's family has been tapping trees for several generations, and she's learned everything there is to know from her dad. This winter, she came out to the hill with a pack full of her dad's gear to teach us the time-honored methods of making maple syrup. So Emmy and I met like 6 years ago, I think, when
we were very little.
Very little. We were both young moms, and I had just moved back to this area, and a lot of our friends had not yet moved back. So I was kind of seeking a way to, kind of rebuild my community around here, people who are doing similar things and living similar lives. So one of the things that I want to explore with you today is I have a base knowledge just from like visiting the maple farms that we visit. But how, if like we have people watching at home, we're going to have to talk about this, is how do they get started? How do they even know if they have the right tree? How do they know if they, there's all different kinds of maple trees. Can you tap all of the maple trees?
If you're looking for a maple, it's usually going to be the largest tree. You're going to look out on your property or in the woods, largest tree in the woods. You're going to look at the bark, and there's some identifying features of the bark. And also, if you can just find some leaves scattered on the ground, there's different features for the different maple trees, whether it's a red or a silver or sugar maple. You can tap the silver, you can tap the sugar maple.
You're just going to get different amounts of sap.
You're going to get different, and it, say if we tap a silver maple, it might take you a longer time to boil it down to get to that darker, rich content, but it's still going to give you some syrup and like fun at the end. I mean, nowadays with technology, there's all the apps and identifiers and things like that.
Which I'm learning is not always accurate.
No, and I always find like asking someone else is a great way to kind of circumvent the technology kind of intervention.
Who has the knowledge and the experience.
Come over and talk to the kids about it.
I forgot to pour us tea, so
okay.
We're gonna do this. This is actually maple tea.
Wonderful.
So some of these books, I have both nonfiction, and I guess we could call them realistic fiction, right? Yeah. So I have some realistic fiction in here. I have some nonfiction. We have some stuff about, just like starting from seed. We have some stuff about like the indigenous peoples, kind of tapping some of their trees. So all of the different types of like, the culture really of tapping trees. And what's so cool about that is the Northeast is really where you're tapping your maple trees. So this is something that the boys can really connect with and they're going to see in their actual backyard.
And I feel like the tradition piece is so special.
Yeah.
My dad was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and last year he wasn't really able to haul the buckets himself, and we weren't sure if we were going to have a burn or a boil last year, but the kids were like, Dee, that's what they call my dad. Like, we have to.
Yeah.
So we did it last year for him to kind of honor that legacy. Yeah. And I know that's really important to you guys here at Pantry Hill is like, how can we incorporate things to pass on to the next generation? I know that Cedar and Joe will remember like tapping the trees. We do it the old-fashioned way with a crank, a hand crank, and we tap the spiles and we haul the buckets. We give it away to our friends and our family, and it's just like tastes that much sweeter.
Just enough for the tradition.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that probably helped, we're speaking about like physical health and mental health during these seasons, I'm sure that, you guys continuing that tradition probably helped your dad get through that season,
So. He's ready to tap this year, so
good. Yeah,
he's excited. He was so excited that we were doing this. He was graciously lending us some of his prize buckets. He said he better put his name on them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. There's so much more behind tradition than just, maintaining the practice for the point of celebration. Like sometimes you maintain that practice for the point of moving yourself through like tough seasons and kind of like honoring those different seasons in your life.
Yep. So at our sugar shack back home, we have engraved each year the burn, what the temperature was, what was the date of the first burn, and you'll see it kind of trailing on as the 40 plus years have gone just at that sugar shack at my parents' house, and they've never missed a year.
Yeah.
So it's cool to continue
to
add.
Kids to see too, and to know
they get their names up there,
right? And you're part of something that's going to continue on afterwards. So Eric and I, 2 years ago, this might be our third year.
I think so, yeah.
We planted the sugar maples. We planted 8 sugar maples in the front.
Yeah.
And they're not something that is going to be nearly ready for us to tap, probably even maybe with our grandchildren or great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
But what we're doing here is kind of creating home, setting up space for the next generation of people. I hope it's going to be our boys, but maybe it's a different family who lives here, to be able to like fully enjoy all of, what this property, what this area has to offer.
So you're always going to need a hammer, because that's what taps. These are called spiles. So this is what the bucket hangs on. Okay. So when you drill your hole, you're going to end up putting this through and tapping that in. So you always need a hammer. Okay. Joe let us borrow hers that my dad gave to her. It says JoJo on it. You can use a drill, like a regular power drill, but we have this old-fashioned crank drill that has been used for many, many years in our family. And some buckets, like there's plastic buckets, metal. We like to use the metal ones when we can. When we can. And I usually carry around this pack basket because I can keep everything in it, which was my great-grandfather. So we use it. It's a very Adirondack heritage. Yeah. People use it for backpacking and logging and guiding in the Adirondacks. So from the Native American tradition, actually, it came down, passed down. So pretty cool. It's a bluebird day, not a cloud in the sky. So let's come take a look at the bark here. So this is likely a silver maple, which we'll do for sugaring. It has sap, but it's going to take longer for it to boil down and get to that darker color. The sugar content is usually the same though. You don't want to tap right under this knot or anywhere there's been trauma to the tree. Okay. So you want to come to the side or off center. When you drill into the tree, so there's nothing really above it or below it. I don't see anything. When you drill in, you actually want to come up at a slight angle so it's easier for the sap to drip out. It doesn't have to be like this, but just a little angle up. How we used to practice, sometimes my dad would let us drill some holes. Just get a stick, and if you don't want to go put a tap in there, stick a stick inside it. It'll like clog up and it won't keep draining anymore. So that way the kids can drill a couple holes too.
The tree will heal
around it. You have to push in and turn righty-tighty. You're going to make the hole. So I'll hold the spile, and all you do is kind of put it up at an angle so gravity helps it come out. But it doesn't have to be 90 degrees, but it doesn't have to be way up into the tree. So you're just going to start your hole and push. Okay, and then maybe one more little spin. Now back it out by spinning it the opposite direction. Okay. Yep, and then slowly pull it out. Wow. And it kind of gets caught in there, so you kind of just give it a little tug. See? Look at Vinny, it's really running.
As we got into it, Eric figured out how to make this age-old tradition work for our family in a practical way. He boiled the sap in shallow pans over a homemade wood stove. Mistakes were made, and at one point we lost a significant amount of sap.
Frustrated, it's been so much work.
Yeah, it has been a lot of work. We have more, right?
Not much, like 10 gallons, we might get a quart.
Okay, go after it.
And it's like super hot, it needs to be cleaned out. I knew it was low, I should have poured it over before I went.
Yeah. Trials and tribulations. Starting something new.
Eventually, we were able to collect about 40 gallons of sap, which left us with about a gallon of syrup, enough for our family to use for the year and to give as gifts. And it really came full circle when we started serving our maple syrup with Eric's famous weekly pancakes, under the same tree that gave us the sap. Something we weren't expecting was how much this process would call people to gather. For several weeks, we had friends, family, and neighbors dropping by to check on the process, to sit around the fire and keep company long into the night as the sap slowly became syrup. Thank you for joining us for afternoon tea. We hope you'll take some time to enjoy your home this week. If you'd like exclusive content from this episode, be sure to subscribe to my Substack.